Hey guys, tonight we're heading to the sun-drenched hills of ancient Greece, where the olives are always ripe, the sandals are suspiciously clean, and the gods? Well, they occasionally nap in vineyards. That's right. Tonight we follow Dionysus, the god of wine, revelry, and dramatic entrances, as he takes a detour no one expected. There's no war, no tragedy, no thunderbolts, just one very sleepy deity, a misplaced grapevine, and a whole lot of misunderstandings. You wouldn't last 5 minutes. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is. Drop it in the comments if you're still awake. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey. Together, you're walking down a dusty olive path, the cicadas already whispering gossip in the branches overhead. Somewhere behind you is the sound of distant lyres, the kind of soft music you'd expect at the very end of a dinner party. You're not late, you're just gently delayed. The invitation said sunset banquet, but the sun's already done with its shift, and the stars are taking attendance. You pull your cloak a little tighter, not from cold, but from that familiar feeling that maybe, just maybe, you've taken a wrong turn near the second cypress. There's a glow ahead. Not fire, not torchlight, just a kind of shimmering haze. You step through a patch of vine leaves, and find it. A vineyard. Not the kind you see in paintings. No orderly rows or neat barrels. This one is wild, tangled, lush in a way that feels more dream than cultivation. The grapes hang in impossible colors. Amethyst, deep teal, something like moonlight distilled into fruit. You blink. Maybe it's the wine talking, but you haven't had any yet. Or have you? A breeze picks up. It smells like fermented pomegranates and wet stone. You've stumbled into something. You just don't know what yet. And then you hear it. Snoring. Soft, rhythmic, and undeniably divine. Lying in the middle of a patch of clover, surrounded by half-drunk amphorae and a pillow made of laurel leaves, is Dionysus, the god of intoxication. Asleep. His sandals are still on, one vine-wrapped, hand resting over his chest, the other loosely clutching a goblet that's tipped sideways and dripping into the grass. A honeybee circles it lazily, like even insects understand the sacredness of his rest. You inch closer because why not? The night is young, the god is asleep, and this is probably the weirdest vineyard in all of Thessaly. Beside him lies a scroll, unopened, wax seal still intact. You don't touch it, you're not that brave, but you notice the seal bears the emblem of Mount Olympus. Official business then, something he didn't read before falling asleep. A note from Zeus, an invitation to a council, or just another overdue wine delivery invoice. You sit down quietly watching him, and that's when the ground rumbles just a little, like the earth itself is trying not to laugh too loudly. A nearby grapevine begins to twist, very slowly, toward the sleeping god. Not menacing, more like an affectionate cat curling up beside its owner. The grapes plumpen as if fed by his dreams. You'd laugh, but you don't want to wake him. And besides, the moon is rising now, and the air is turning syrupy with scent. Thyme fig, a hint of peppered myrrh. You lay back too. Not next to him, of course, you're not crazy, but close enough to feel that kind of divine stillness radiating out from his napping form. No owls hoot, no jackals cry. The night is holding its breath. You start to drift too, not quite sleep, but something softer. The kind of rest that wraps around your limbs and tells your thoughts they've done enough. You remember the scroll again. You wonder what it says. You'll never know, because some stories don't begin with declarations. They begin with a god snoring. See, in the grass, a vineyard that wasn't there yesterday, and a night so quiet it feels like history forgot to keep going. And that, my friend, is how Dionysus missed dinner.
You wake to dew. It clings to your eyelashes, gathers in the corners of your cloak, kisses the tips of your fingers. The vineyard is still here, still lush, but different now. Less enchanted, more real. The dreamlike shine has faded with the stars, leaving behind something rooted, something ancient. Dionysus is gone. The goblet is upright. The scroll is missing. Only the imprint of his form remains in the grass, a faint hollow where God met ground. Around it, the grapevines curl in tighter spirals, as if mourning his absence. You sit, up, blinking the sleep from your eyes. In the distance, you hear soft hooves on stone, not horses, not chariots, something lighter. You peek through the vines. It's a satyr. And he's late. He stumbles through the foliage, one sandal missing, a basket of figs swinging wildly in one hand. He mutters to himself in the universal language of hangovers and regret. Can't believe he started the nap without me. You clear your throat. He freezes mid-step, mid-mutter. Oh no, he says, squinting at you like you're the worst-case scenario. You're not an oracle, are you? Because if this is a vision quest, I was definitely not authorized to appear. You shake your head. Just a traveller. Just here. The satyr relaxes. Phew. Good. Look, if anyone asks, I brought the figs on time, okay? He drops the basket next to you and flops onto the grass. So, he says, glancing at the empty patch where Dionysus once lay. How was it? You don't quite know how to answer. How was what? The night, the nap, the god. He sighs, long and theatrical. He always does this, you know. Disappears just before the fun part. Last time, we were halfway through a wine. Opera in Crete and Boom. Gone. Left me singing the bass part solo in front of a bunch of confused shepherds. You raise an eyebrow. Oh yeah. He nods. The god of chaos is predictably unpredictable. That's the real trick. Then, his tone softens. But he always leaves a trail. You follow his gaze to the base of a nearby olive tree. Carved. Into the bark, not freshly but long ago, are a series of symbols: grape cluster, spiral, eye, sleep. You reach out and trace them. That's his mark, the satyr says quietly. It means the dream continues. You frown. Dream. He smiles. Don't worry. It's not the kind you wake from. It's the kind you walk through. And just like that, the air changes. You smell something new. Sea salt, oranges, crushed rosemary. The vineyard has edges now, and past them, a path. Paved not with stone but with pressed grape skins, sticky and dark, as if the land itself is bleeding wine. You follow it. Because why wouldn't you? The satyr waves. Tell him I said hi, and that he still owes me a goat. You wave back, unsure whether you're stepping into another dream, or simply walking deeper into a very strange version of history. The path winds through a grove of pomegranates, each fruit hanging split open like a secret whispered too loudly. Bees hover. Petals drift. The sun rises slow and golden, the kind of light that doesn't ask permission. It just arrives warm and total. And then you see it. A column. Just one. Toppled, moss-covered, half-swallowed by ivy, but unmistakably Greek. The remnants of a sanctuary. And at its base, another scroll. This one's open. You kneel. The words aren't in ink. They're pressed into the parchment like bruises from time itself. Faint, but legible. It reads, He slept. The vines bent low to cradle him. The earth stilled, the fruit thickened, and time forgot how to march. You look around. There's no altar, no statue. Just memory. Still, something tugs at the edge of your mind. A feeling, a scent, a trace of laughter. The nap wasn't an accident. It was the ritual. Some historians still debate whether Dionysus ever truly slept. They argue over metaphor and symbolism, whether the tales were poetic flourishes or divine truth. But those who found this grove, this hidden thread in the fabric of the world, know better. Because gods don't nap the way mortals do. They retreat, they recharge, they reshape the world in their sleep. And when they wake, everything is different. You stand, the scroll still whispering in your hands, and behind you, the wind stirs, the grapevines once more, not a storm, just a sigh, as if the god of wine has turned over in his sleep. The path becomes less a path now and more a suggestion. Pressed grape skins giving way to soft dirt, then to grass, then to something that feels like breath. The air hums with something low and steady, like the distant beat of a drum muffled by centuries of soil. You hear it in your chest more than your ears. You pause beneath a fig tree, its branches twisted like limbs mid-dance, heavy with ripe fruit. One drops beside you with a soft thud, splitting open to reveal a heart of deep red, almost wine-dark. You remember the satyr's words. He always leaves a trail, and this feels like part of it. Far ahead, you see another figure. Not approaching. Just waiting. A woman. She's cloaked in saffron yellow, her hair a wild tangle of black and silver, adorned with dried vine leaves. She's older, not old, the kind of older that feels eternal, like she's always been leaning against that olive tree, always been watching. She beckons. You approach slowly, respectfully, as though she's a shrine. You came through this vineyard, she says. Not a question. You nod. She smiles. Then you've earned the next part. She opens her palm. There, resting like a coin or a seed, is a glass bead. Inside it, impossibly, a swirl of colour, green, gold and violet, like light passing through wine at sunrise. This, she says, is a piece of his dream. You hesitate. She doesn't push, just closes her fingers around it and continues. Most people think Dionysus was the god of chaos, of frenzy, of losing control. She looks at you, but those who walk this way know better. He wasn't the god of losing yourself. He was the god of finding what was buried. You glance down at the ground, at the figs, at your own hands. You think wine is about forgetting, she says. But here's a secret. True intoxication reveals, not hides. She motions for you to sit. You do. And she begins to tell you the story of a time Dionysus wasn't a god at all, not yet, when he was just a boy. Born not quite mortal, not quite divine. Raised in the shadows of Mount Nysa by nymphs and madness itself. A child hidden from the wrath of Hera, always running, always laughing, always learning that the world was stitched together by flavour and feeling. He didn't learn power from thrones, she says. He learned it from fermentation, from watching time transform fruit into something stronger than itself. You blink. The idea settles in your bones like wine warming your chest. They say, she continues, that his first miracle wasn't turning water into wine. That came later. His first miracle was planting a vine where nothing should grow, in the middle of a stone quarry. And when it bore fruit, he wept, because beauty doesn't ask for permission. You look up. The fig tree is leaning toward her now, like it's listening too. Some scholars say that story's a metaphor, she whispers, as if it might shatter otherwise. But those who've seen the quarry, who've tasted the grapes, that still grow between the stones, know better. The wind sighs again, and this time it smells of honey. She opens her palm once more and offers you the bead again. This time you take it. It's warm. Keep it close, she says. Not to worship, but to remember. And just like that she stands, brushes fig leaves from her robe and walks away. No farewell, no vanish in a flash of light. Just steps, crunching quietly into the grove. You look at the bead in your hand, turning it over between your fingers. It pulses faintly, like memory, like breath, like something ancient still dreaming. And as you rise, and continue forward, not following her but continuing your own path, the sky begins to shift again, not darker, not brighter, just softer, as though you are walking not through myth, but through the pause between verses in an old, sacred song. You round a bend and find yourself beside a stream, shallow, slow, winding its way through olive roots and patches of wild thyme. It smells faintly of crushed herbs and distant rain, though the sky above you holds nothing but stars. And the stars. They're beginning to shimmer more vividly now, like someone brushed the heavens with oil and gold leaf. You crouch by the stream, and for the first time in a while, you catch a glimpse of your own reflection. Your face looks different. Somehow. Not older, not younger, just more softened. As if the vineyard had rinsed some sharpness from you. There's a rustle behind you. You turn and find a cluster of men and women in loose robes, indigo, russet, saffron, seated in a crescent shape on smooth stone. One plays a lyre lazily, the notes meandering like the stream. Another offers a plate of figs and walnuts, but without speaking. Just a smile and a raised brow, as if to say, "You've arrived." No one tells you what this place is. No one has to. It's not a temple. It's not a court, it's a memory. They call it the Whispering Circle, though only one historian ever recorded that name. A minor scholar from Ephesus with bad handwriting and excellent hearing. He claimed it was where Dionysus first learned to listen, not with ears. With stillness. You sit beside them, careful not to disturb the rhythm, the lyre, the stream, the quiet laughter. One woman, eyes the colour of wine just before it turns, leans in. "They say," she murmurs, "he once sat right there." Right. Where you are. And for 3 nights he didn't speak, he just listened. To what? She shrugs. To bees, to roots growing. To the sound figs make when they ripen. You almost laugh, but you don't, because somehow it makes sense. This is the kind of place where silence doesn't feel like absence. It feels like attention, and that's when it happens. A sudden gust of warm air, like a sigh from the earth itself, rushes through the circle. The lyre stops. Heads turn, not in fear, not in reverence, but in recognition. "He's dreaming again," someone whispers. And the circle rises, not in unison, but naturally, like leaves floating upward. You're not sure what that means. But your feet follow, rising with the others, moving toward a path lined with flickering oil lamps. No torches, no fanfare. Just light. And in the centre of the path, a child, barefoot, wearing a tunic too large for him, sticky with grape must. His curls are matted, his eyes are wide, he doesn't say a word. He just lifts a fig, offers it to you, and waits. You take it. Bite. Sweet, overripe, tasting of summer and sunburn and forgotten songs. The child grins, and then vanishes. Not in smoke, not in magic, just like a memory that realises it's been remembered and no longer needs to stay. You blink. The fig is still in your hand, only now it's carved of wood, smooth, polished, with a grain that glows faintly in the lamplight. "They made those," someone says behind you. To remind themselves of the sweetness, you don't turn around. You're not sure you need to, because in that moment, the fig feels heavier than it should, full of story, full of sleep, full of something older than history and younger than dreams, and once again, without planning it, your steps begin to slow. Not because you're tired, but because the land is teaching you how to rest.
The path curves gently uphill, winding between cypress trees that sway not with wind but with memory. Their silhouettes cut against the indigo sky like ink strokes on parchment, tall and unmoving. You trail your fingers along the dry, bark-covered trunks as you pass, and they feel like ancient spine, not of trees but of books long forgotten. The air here carries a new weight, not heavier, just older, and with it, a scent you can't quite place. Not flowers, not soil, something pressed, preserved. Like the inside of a cedar chest sealed for centuries, you arrive at a low stone archway. Carved into it almost lazily are the shapes of donkeys, amphorae, and vine leaves, etched not for grandeur but for fondness. Someone loved this place enough to decorate it. You step through, and you are in a cellar. Not cold, not musty. This is no crypt. The walls are clay brick, warm to the touch, and shelves curve with the room's walls, every surface lined with tall, thin-necked jars. Some sealed, some open, all gleaming slightly in the flickering lamplight. One amphora is labeled, the letters faded but still legible, "To the one who overslept." Your guide's voice returns, hushed now. "Dionysus," he says, "was once left behind." You blink. "What?" He nods. After one of his many journeys, the kind where the wine outlasts the map, the entire caravan left without him. He had fallen asleep in a vineyard. Deep sleep. Not drunk. Just dream-tired. You. Imagine it now. The god of revelry sprawled beneath a fig tree, mouth open, snoring gently, a grape half-chewed beside his cheek. The guide chuckles. By the time he woke, everyone was gone. Even the satyrs. Only one amphora remained, half full. And the vineyard keeper, an old man with patience and poor hearing, mistook him for a wandering poet and let him stay. And what did Dionysus do? He shrugs. He stayed. For a week. Pressed grapes, told stories, painted rude jokes on the cellar walls, and then left. You run your fingers along a nearby jar. The ceramic is cool, but the memory inside it seems to hum. Some say, the guide adds, that week changed him. That sleep in the vineyard, it wasn't just nap time, it was metamorphosis. He stopped trying to escape the world through wine and started using wine to understand it. You pause. The idea seems too gentle for a god known for wildness. But then again, maybe that's the point. You crouch and lift one amphora slightly. It's heavier than it looks, sloshing quietly, like it holds more than liquid. And on the rim you notice an inscription, so faint it feels whispered. Even gods must nap. The guide touches your shoulder. You're not far now, he says, but this is where the story's slow. Why? Because sleep is coming. You nod, though your body already knows. Your arms feel heavier, your breath longer, your feet content. Still, you linger a moment more, because here, in this soft circle of jars and silence, even forgetting feels like a sacred act. And as you walk back up the stone path, the amphora's echo still in your ears, you realize something. The god of wine once overslept, and the world kept spinning, gently, patiently, like it was waiting for him to wake up and rejoin the dance. You descend now not into darkness, but into a kind of velvet. The stone under your feet is smoother here, the walls closer. Each breath feels like it's been filtered through crushed leaves and memory. Somewhere, faintly, the sound of dripping. Water echoes, not loud enough to be real, but rhythmic enough to feel imagined. You've entered a sanctuary, not sacred in the religious sense, but sacred in its quiet. This, your guide whispers, is the vineyard archive. You pause. There's an archive. For wine? He grins. Not for wine. For what wine heard. The corridor widens into a small domed room. On the walls, carved panels, each covered in tiny, looping script. Not in any single language. Some look Greek, others Egyptian. A few swirls of dots and curved lines seem almost musical. These, your guide says, are records of conversations had over wine. Not the speeches, not the toasts, the murmurs, the confessions, the silences. You run your fingers along a panel, tracing the uneven rhythm of what must be secrets. The air here smells faintly of thyme and baked stone. You see, he continues, Dionysus wasn't just about revelry. He was about release. And when people released their stories into the air, he caught them. You picture it. A party somewhere in Thrace. Two friends leaning close, voices low, and behind them, invisible and listening, the god of wine scribbling notes in some celestial journal with a grape-stained finger. It's oddly comforting. In the center of the room, a stone table shaped like a leaf bears a single scroll. Unlike the carved walls, this one is fresh, parchment soft and unworn. The ink glistens slightly in the lamplight, still wet in places. Your guide gestures toward it. It updates itself. He says simply, you lean over. The script is flowing, now alive. As you watch, new lines appear, written not by hand but by memory itself. And the words, they're yours. Not all of them, just fragments. A sentence you whispered to a friend last week. A thought you never voiced aloud, but thought loudly enough. A dream you forgot until now. Is this safe? You ask. Your guide Shrugs. Safe? Maybe not, but it's honest. You take a slow breath. The scroll doesn't judge. It just listens. And perhaps that's why Dionysus left this room untouched. No goblets, no ivy, no dancing girls. Just a place where truth could echo and settle. Like sediment in old wine. There's a bench carved into the far wall. You sit. Not because you're tired, but because your thoughts want somewhere to rest. You think of how many stories never get remembered, how many confessions vanish into pillows or rainstorms. And yet, here, some trace remains. Not for others to read, just to be acknowledged, to be made real. Your guide sits beside you, silent. The scroll ripples once more, and a single word appears. Stillness. You don't know if it's yours, but it fits. And as you stand to leave, the walls seem to sigh, not sadly, but like someone stretching before sleep. You exit slowly, carrying no souvenir, just the weightless sense that your truths are no longer yours alone. They belong to the wine now, and to the god who took a nap and woke up knowing more than he'd ever danced for. The night has deepened further now, thick and silky like warm fig syrup poured across the horizon. Stars press in closer, clustering like old friends eavesdropping on your thoughts. You follow your guide along a narrow path that winds between olive trees, their silvery leaves murmuring in the breeze like gossiping grandmothers. You're not sure where you are anymore, not geographically anyway. But you know exactly where you are in the story. You're in the middle, the part where things slow down just enough for meaning to catch up. Your guide stops beside a low stone wall. Beyond it, rows of grapevines, dry and bare under the moonlight, their twisted limbs silhouetted against the earth like dancers caught mid-pose. He points to a small hill in the distance. That, he says, is where Dionysus fell asleep. You squint. It's not very impressive. No statues, no shrine, just a gentle rise with a weathered fig tree and a circle of flattened grass. But maybe that's the point. Why here? You ask. He said it was quiet. Your guide replies. You walk the last few steps alone. The grass crunches softly underfoot. The air smells of fennel and loam. At the center of the hill is a depression, shallow and round, like the imprint left by someone lying down. And around it, arranged in a loose spiral, are dozens of clay cups. Some chipped, some full of sand, a few still stained with the ghost of wine. You sit. The earth is warm beneath you, not hot, not dry, just agreeable, like it's glad you're here. He was tired, your guide says behind you. Tired of cheering up mortals who refuse to cheer themselves. Tired of reminding people that joy wasn't a sin. Tired of being invited for the wine, but not for the silence after. So he lay down. He let the grapes go unharvested for a season. Let the parties pause. Let the vines catch their breath. You look up. The stars have arranged themselves in a curve now. Not a constellation exactly, but an embrace. He didn't abandon joy, your guide says. He just remembered that even joy needs a nap. You lie back. The clay cups whisper their stories around you. Laughter trapped in their curves, echoes of old festivals and sweet forgotten toasts. Somewhere, nearby, a cicada starts its slow hum, not frantic, just thoughtful. You match its rhythm with your breathing and you realize this isn't a hill. Not really, it's a pause button, pressed gently into the soil by a god who knew that rest wasn't weakness, that silence wasn't absence, that a vineyard without music still holds a tune. You close your eyes. Not to sleep, not yet, just to remember what it feels like to stop dancing and still feel the music moving inside you.
You're still lying there when your guide nudges your shoulder with the edge of his sandal, gently, like waking someone from a nap that's lasted a bit too long but not nearly long enough. Come on, he says softly. There's something else you should see. You stretch like a cat who's just remembered it has bones and follow him down a slope, past a weathered amphora half buried in the dirt and an old stone bench that has held more laughter than rain. The vineyard is behind you now, and ahead, Something darker, denser, older. A cave. Its mouth yawns like a whisper, low and cool, with fig vines curling around the entrance like shy invitations. You duck inside, the ceiling just high enough to make you bow your head, an accidental act of reverence. Inside, the air changes. It's thick with the scent of time, damp stone, dried resin, something sweet and sour like fermented honey. The walls glisten slightly with moisture, and the only light comes from a series of small clay lanterns that line the floor like stepping stones made of fire. At the center of the chamber is a pedestal. On it, a mask, bronze, etched and smiling. But not in a funny way, not a jester's grin. This smile is more knowing, tired. The smile of someone who has seen too many weddings and too many funerals, and finally stopped trying to tell the difference. Dionysus left this, your guide, murmurs, on the day he gave up trying to be taken seriously. You blink. Isn't that when people start respecting you? Your guide chuckles. Only when you stop needing it. He walks slowly around the pedestal, hands clasped behind his back. This was the original mask of joy, he continues. Not the one we wear at parties, but the one we wear when the party ends. When the floor is sticky and the guests are gone, and the silence is too loud. You look closer. The mask isn't shiny. It's not polished. It has dents, scrapes, even a crack across one cheek. But it glows faintly, not from the bronze, but from something inside it. A kind of memory. You know the myth, your guide says. How he wandered after his birth. How no one believed he was divine. How even his own family rolled their eyes whenever he summoned a miracle. You nod. He got tired of proving himself. So instead, he put on this mask and walked into the world with wine in one hand and patience in the other. He danced, laughed, sang badly, and told the truth too often. And in doing so, he became forgettable. You raise an eyebrow. On purpose, your guide adds. The room feels warmer now. Not unpleasantly so, more like being hugged by someone wearing too many layers. You reach out and touch the pedestal. It's cool. The mask vibrates slightly under your fingers, like it's trying to hum a note you've forgotten. Some historians argue the mask never existed, your guide says, crouching beside one of the lanterns. Others think it was made by followers, not Dionysus himself. But every so often, someone finds their way to this cave, a merchant, a monk, a tourist who took a wrong turn, and they all describe the same thing. You tilt your head, feeling that the mask smiled at them first. You back away slowly, eyes never leaving the grin. It doesn't seem mocking. It doesn't seem proud. It just knows. Knows what you've carried to this moment. Knows why you needed to be here. Knows that joy, the real kind, doesn't come from noise or approval or even understanding. It comes from release. You walk out of the cave. The sky outside has turned, velvet again, stars soft as sugar. The wind smells like rosemary and rain that hasn't fallen yet. You walk quietly, your footsteps lighter now. And somewhere behind you, deep in the cave, a soft chuckle echoes once. Not yours, not your guide's. Just the mask being itself. The stars above you stretch like spilled salt across a dark silk cloth, and your sandals trace soft patterns into the desert dust as you follow your guide farther from the vineyard, farther from the cave, farther even from the memory of the mask's quiet grin. Tonight, everything breathes slowly, even the hills, even you. You pass a low ridge and find yourself looking down at what appears to be a dry stream bed, cracked earth in the moonlight, weaving like a forgotten vein through the sand. But your guide crouches, places a hand on the ground and whispers, "It's not dry. Not underneath." You blink. He points ahead. Come. The path narrows between two leaning rock faces, worn by time into shapes that look like slumped shoulders and bent knees. You squeeze through, brushing against cool stone, until the space opens into a narrow corridor lined with low pillars. You realize you're standing at the edge of something old. Not temple old, not tomb old. Older and quieter. Before, you is the mouth of a qanat, an ancient underground waterway. No grand arch, no gilded door. Just a simple stone slope disappearing into the earth, flanked by low steps and the remains of what may have once been a wooden door, long since surrendered to dust. You step forward. Immediately, the air changes. It kisses your cheeks with the breath of a forgotten winter. Cool, steady, impossible for this time of year. The stone beneath your feet is damp. You hear it first as a whisper. Plink, plink. Then a slow, smooth hush, water echoing through stone, soft as lullabies. You crouch. Running along the side of the passage is a narrow channel, no wider than your hand. Within it, movement. Water, shimmering faintly in the lamplight, your guide. Just lit, a bowl of oil with a floating wick, balanced on a ledge like an offering to silence. This qanat, he says, was tuned. You glance up. Tuned? He nods. The chambers were carved with intention, not just to carry water, but to carry sound. The engineers of old Persia were also musicians. You listen harder, and now you hear it. Not just water, but rhythm. A gentle resonance that dances along the stone. Not music in the way we think of it. No instruments, no melody, but a song nonetheless. This qanat sings in D minor, your guide adds, as if that answers everything. You don't know if it does, but it feels right. You follow him down into the passage. The slope is gentle, the air growing cooler with each step. You pass carved niches in the walls, places where oil lamps once sat, or perhaps small statues, or perhaps only memory. Farther in, the sound grows clearer. You reach a small chamber, a resting alcove. There's a low stone bench and a cistern that bubbles just enough to disturb the silence but not enough to startle it. You sit. Your guide does not. He stands near the edge of the chamber, eyes half closed, humming softly. A tune that doesn't match the qanats exactly, but harmonizes like a memory trying to find its way home. You lean back. The stone is cool. You close your eyes. And the music continues, not loud, not urgent, just steady. A breath made of water and rock and time. Some scholars believe these acoustics were unintentional, a byproduct of function. Others argue that it was deliberate, that the creators believed sound could calm the soul as much as water quenched the body. You feel both happening now. Your guide finally speaks again, voice barely above the echo. In villages like this, they said that sleeping near the qanat cured bad dreams. You open your eyes. Why? He shrugs. Because water doesn't lie. You smile at that. You don't know what it means, but you know it's true. The qanat keeps humming. You stay seated a while longer, letting the cold settle into your spine like a story being whispered just beneath your skin. It doesn't make. You shiver. It makes you remember. A breath. A sound. A stillness. You rise slowly. Your guide extinguishes the lamp. And together, you walk out. Not into morning, not yet, but into a night that's grown quieter, more complete. Behind you, the qanat keeps singing, it always does. You emerge into the open again, and the sky feels wider now, as if the stars have leaned in, curious to see what you've brought with you from the underworld of water and echo. The sand beneath your feet is softer here, like sifted flour, and the wind is no longer restless. It waits. You follow your guide along a path that curves gently around a hillside. There, nestled like a secret at the base of a cliff, is a grove. Grapevines again, but not wild this time. These are trimmed, tended, carefully trained along wooden stakes and stone trellises. This is no accident. The air here smells different. Still sweet, but tempered. More memory than fruit. And then you see it. In the center of the grove, half covered in moss and shadow, is a stone platform. Low, round, and slightly slanted. A few dried leaves cling to its edges. Resting atop it, a single clay cup. Your guide approaches with reverence, not ceremony. He picks up the cup and hands it to you. It's empty. He nods toward a small amphora resting in the crook of a nearby tree, the kind of jug you'd expect to see carried in a painting by someone with tired feet and too many siblings. You pour. The liquid glugs out slowly, deep red, thicker than wine, thinner than honey. When it hits the cup, it doesn't splash. It settles. You raise it. It smells of pomegranates, thyme, and something older, something like sun-dried laughter. Drink, he says. But slowly. You sip. And the taste. Oh, it's not loud. It's not even bold. It's a memory you've never had, from a summer you forgot you dreamed. This, your guide explains, is sleep wine. Not because it puts you to sleep, but because it's made from grapes that only grow beside water cooled by night air, vines that never see the direct sun, that ripen in shadows and speak in whispers. They say Dionysus once slept in this grove, not passed out, not drunk, just asleep, peacefully. After planting the first of these vines by hand, the story goes that he wandered here after a long journey, carrying not his thyrsus or his goblet, but a basket of cuttings. He was tired, not from revelry, from loneliness, and so he planted one vine, then another. He sang to them, spoke to them, cried beside them, and then he slept, under the stars, wrapped in silence. The vines grew. Some say they bear his fingerprints, still, the spiral twist of the tendrils mimicking his curls, the deep purple of the fruit echoing the bruises of his past. You run your fingers along one of the vines now. It feels alive. Not just growing, remembering. Your guide smiles. They believed that if you drank this wine in silence, it would show you the dreams Dionysus once had, the ones he never told anyone. You sip again. The wind sighs. You close your eyes. And in the distance, somewhere between grape and stone, you hear it. Laughter. Not loud. Not wild. Just content. A chuckle from someone who's finally found rest. You open your eyes and everything is still. The grove, the stones, even the stars seem to pause. The cup is half empty now, or half full. Who cares? You place it gently. On the stone platform, the moss embraces it. Your guide says nothing, because what more is there to say when the god of madness himself once chose silence? You rise, and somewhere in your chest, you feel it settle, not the wine, not the myth, but the weight of stillness, like sleep, just before it claims you. You walk slowly now, as if the very dust beneath your feet has begun to thicken with time. Your limbs are warm, loose, softened by the sleep wine, and the stars above have begun to blur at the edges, as though even the sky is blinking slower. The path winds through a stretch of low rock and scrub, where crickets play rhythms older than language. Your guide stays beside you, quiet again, though every now and then he hums, not a tune exactly, but more like a kind of memory made audible. Soon you come to a place that feels hollow, not empty, just vast in the way that old silences are vast. It's a natural amphitheater of sorts, a shallow bowl in the earth rimmed with flat stones. At its center stands a single, thin column, barely taller than a man, and hanging from it is something unexpected. A bell. Bronze, worn green at the edges, decorated not with religious symbols or courtly designs, but with vines, grapevines. And goats. Yes, goats. You look at your guide. He chuckles. You've heard of the Bacchae, right? He says. Most people focus on the madness, the frenzy, but they forget the laughter. He sits on a stone and gestures for you to do the same. This, he continues, was once a theater, not for plays, for stories. You listen as he tells you about the ancient storytellers, women and men who would wander from village to village carrying nothing but a lyre and a memory. They'd gather around bells like this one, ring it once, and begin. Not loudly, he says. Never with shouting. The best tales were told like secrets, so soft you had to lean in to hear. And here's the funny part. Sometimes they wouldn't finish. Not out of forgetfulness, but design. A good storyteller knew exactly when to pause, to let the audience live in the suspense, the mystery, the moment before resolution. Kind of like sleep, your guide adds. Right at the edge of knowing. You smile, and as if on cue, a breeze rolls through the hollow and the bell sways gently, letting out a soft, dry chime. Ding, just once. And that's enough. You can almost hear it now. Voices layered into the dust. A laugh from centuries ago. A gasp. A breath held too long and then released. It's a kind of time travel, but sideways. You lie back on the stone and let your eyes wander across the stars. Your fingers find the fine cracks in the rock. Your mind drifts, not away from the story, but deeper into it. Because this is the secret the storytellers knew. That the best tales don't end. They echo. They settle into the softest corners of your memory, like seeds. And if you're quiet enough, if you sit long enough, they sprout. Somewhere far off, a goat bleats. Your guide raises one eyebrow. They say Dionysus used to travel with one named Melon. You blink at him. Melon? He nods solemnly. He had a round face and terrible aim, threw grapes at statues. You both laugh. It doesn't matter if it's true, it sounds true. And that's enough, because some stories are meant to be believed, even if they're ridiculous. Especially if they're ridiculous. You close your eyes again and let the bell's echo roll through your chest like thunder underwater. You don't remember falling asleep. But something in the silence tells you the story kept going anyway. When you stir again, it's not because of sound or movement, but because of stillness, the kind that presses gently against your skin like cool silk. You open your eyes to a stretch of earth so wide and empty, it feels like it's waiting for something. There are no trees here, no stones, just fine, pale sand. And in the center of it all, a single wooden cart. Not moving, not abandoned, just patient. Your guide is already there, standing beside it. He doesn't say anything at first, just lifts the cloth covering the cart's contents. You step closer and see what's inside. Wine amphorae, dozens of them, all sealed with wax, some marked with faded symbols. A few look newer, repairs perhaps, but most bear the scuffs and chips of long journeys. This, he says, was Dionysus's delivery service. You raise an eyebrow. He grins. No, really. He didn't just drink wine, he distributed it, especially to places where no one else would. You walk slowly around the cart. Each amphora is unique, different clay, different shapes, some painted with goats, others with stars, or what might be waves. He believed in sharing joy, your guide continues, but not for profit, not to gain favor, just because joy needs to move. You trail your hand along one of the amphorae. The clay is warm from the day, but you imagine it once carried something cold, tart, sweet, alive. In one legend, he says, he visited a town that had forgotten how to dance. People there were serious, too serious. Worked from dawn to dusk, never laughed, never sang. He pauses. So Dionysus left them 12 amphorae, unmarked, unexplained. The townspeople argued, of course, about who got which one, whether they were cursed or holy, whether to drink at all. But eventually, curiosity won out. They drank. And then someone started humming. Someone else tapped a rhythm on the table. And one woman, a grandmother, stood up and clapped. And then they danced. You both smile. Some historians say it never happened, he adds. They say the story's too neat, too hopeful. But honestly, I think that's the point. You sit beside the cart, your back against a wheel. The stars are higher now, sharper. You feel the weight of history in the amphorae, not as a burden but as ballast, steadying, rooting. Dionysus, the god of wine and madness, also understood quiet. That maybe the truest pleasure isn't the loudest one, it's the one that lingers. A soft wind brushes your cheek. The amphorae clink faintly, like glass bells. You wonder what kind of wine would be inside the one nearest you. Something citrusy, smoky, or maybe just cold, the kind that surprises your tongue and makes you laugh for no reason at all. The kind you drink slowly, not to forget, but to remember the rhythm. You lean your head back against the wood. Your guide is humming. Again, low and simple, like a lullaby carved out of starlight. And before you even realize it, your breath has matched the rhythm of the cart's stillness. The earth turns beneath you, and sleep rises like steam from a wine cup. You don't remember falling asleep, but you know exactly when you wake, because something is different. It's not louder, not brighter, just closer. The world feels nearer now, as if it has leaned in, just enough for you to hear it breathing. You sit up slowly, still surrounded by the sleeping amphorae, and your guide is crouching nearby, tracing something into the sand with his finger. It looks like a spiral at first, but then a branch, then a river, and then you realize it's all three. This, he says softly, is how Dionysus found the vineyard. You blink, unsure what he means. He gestures around, to the sand, to the stars, to the hills barely visible on the horizon. Not a vineyard planted, he explains. A vineyard discovered. Wild, untamed, hidden in the crook of a canyon where nothing was supposed to grow. You rise to your feet. The air smells faintly sweet now. Not like grapes, not exactly. More like memory. Fermented time. Some say it was a sacred place, your guide continues. Others say it was just forgotten. Either way, Dionysus stumbled upon it when he was lost. Not metaphorically, literally. He laughs. He got turned around on a journey, wandered too far west. No map, no heralds, just him and a tired donkey. You picture it now, the god of ecstasy, dusty and irritable, swatting at flies, muttering about olives. And then, he says, he heard something. You tilt your head, a humming, low and golden, like bees singing through a flute. He followed the sound and found the vines. You close your eyes, try to hear it, and maybe, just maybe, you do. The humming isn't a song. It's a vibration, a frequency, a kind of welcome only the lost can hear. He stayed, your guide says, for days, maybe weeks, drank from the natural springs, ate fruit from the vine, slept under the grape leaves. No followers, no temples, no parties, just Dionysus. Alone, resting. You ask if this is where he learned to be still. Your guide nods. It's where he realized that intoxication isn't about frenzy. It's about letting go. Letting the earth carry you. Letting sweetness seep in slow. You sit again, and this time the sand beneath you feels soft. Almost like soil. You imagine the vineyard now. Twisted roots, wild clusters, fruit heavy and dark under a sky like velvet. Some say the grapes from that hidden vineyard could cure sorrow. Others say they just made you feel less alone. Either way, Dionysus left them. There, never claimed the place, never named it, he simply rested, then walked away, and the vines, they say, are still growing. Somewhere in the folds of forgotten hills, humming their slow golden hymn. You lie back again, the sand warm against your spine, and for a moment you swear you can feel a leaf brush your cheek. Or maybe it's just the night, wrapping you in something older than myth, softer than truth, and sweeter than any wine. You're still lying in that imagined vineyard, the hush of the desert pressing gently around you, when your guide's voice returns. So soft, it almost blends into the breeze. You know, he says, not every myth ends with a feast. Or a war. Or a miracle. You hum in agreement, eyes still closed. Some end with a nap. You glance over, one eyebrow raised. He grins. It's true, he says. That vineyard, the one Dionysus stumbled into, that's where he finally slept. You blink. Wait, the god of revelry? Slept? Your guide nods solemnly. For 3 days straight. Didn't move. Didn't speak. Just lay there, wrapped in grape leaves and moonlight. You try to picture it. Dionysus, divine and drowsy, curled beneath vines, his wine-stained fingers twitching in dream. They say the whole earth quieted for him, your guide continues. Animals crept softer. Winds held their breath. Even, the stars dimmed, like they were tucking him in. You smile, because somehow that feels right. A god so often associated with chaos, finally resting in the arms of silence. But why, you ask? Why then? Your guide shrugs. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he needed reminding that even gods have limits. Or maybe, just maybe, he wanted to see what happened when he let the world move without him. You let that settle. Because it's a strange kind of wisdom, isn't it? The idea that power includes the power to pause. That stillness isn't weakness. It's a form of reverence. You imagine it again. The vineyard bathed in dusk, the vines whispering their lullaby to a slumbering god. Some versions of the story say the vines grew faster while he slept. That the soil grew sweeter. That even the nearby springs bubbled softer, as if trying not to wake him. Others say the local villagers found him there, and instead of panicking or celebrating, they simply left him be. A clay bowl of water at his side, a folded cloak for shade. Because even gods, they figured, deserve to be left alone sometimes, especially when they finally allowed themselves to rest. Your guide stands and stretches. And when Dionysus woke, he says, he didn't throw a festival. He didn't summon satyrs or stir the heavens. He just smiled and left. The path he took has long been lost to time. Some say it sank into sand. Others believe the vines rose up and covered it. But a few, the dreamers, the quiet ones, say the path still exists. But it only appears to those who need it. Not the loud, not the desperate, but the weary. You roll onto your side, the weight of the tale folding around you like a warm shawl. It's not a grand ending, not a thunderclap or a chorus of gods. But it feels whole, like the closing sigh of a day well lived, and in the hush that follows, soft as a yawn, long as a sunset, you realize this was never a story about wine. It was a story about pause, about letting yourself lie down in a vineyard you didn't plant, and sleep. You're still in the vineyard, not the real one, of course. That place has long vanished into legend, but the one woven gently in your mind. The vines curl overhead like fingers laced in prayer. The stars blink through their leaves like soft lanterns. And Dionysus? He's gone, just as your guide said. But the shape of where he rested still lingers. A small depression in the soil, a quiet in the air. You remain still. Not because you have to, but because you understand now. This is the ending he chose. No parade. No mythic farewell. Just the silence of a god who finally let go. And your guide. He doesn't speak anymore. He knows this part is yours. You sit up slowly, brushing imagined dust from your sleeves. Your body feels lighter. Not weightless, but untethered. Like someone just released the last thread tying you to the noise of the day. The cool breeze that drifts across your cheek smells faintly of figs and something colder. Not quite snow, not quite memory. You turn toward the path, the one Dionysus took. It's not visible, not really, but you feel it, like a breeze you can't see but instinctively follow. One step, another, no fanfare, no trumpets, just breath, just dust, just peace. The stars stretch, wider now, and the sky becomes impossibly vast. The kind of sky that makes you feel small in a way that's comforting, not crushing. Like being tucked into something larger than yourself, and the vines, they sway a little, like waving goodbye. No, not goodbye. Just good night. And that's what this is, isn't it? A long, ancient good night. To Dionysus. To the heat of the day. To stories told by lantern glow and softened by centuries. Your feet find cool earth. Your breath slows, and the last thought that comes, as the vineyard fades, as the wind hushes, as the stars lean close enough to whisper, is this. Even the gods nap. Even the gods sleep. Even the gods, sometimes, let the world spin without them, and if they can rest, so can you. So you close your eyes, and you drift.